the South Pacific. To understand the survivor, you have to understand the dreamer. Tami Oldham was 23 years old. She wasn't running from anything. She was running toward everything. She was a California girl, blonde, athletic, with salt in her hair and the sun in her skin. But she wasn't a beach bunny. She was a sailor. She had left San Diego with a backpack and a sextant. She worked her way across the Pacific, crewing on sailboats, cooking in galleys, painting hulls. She was part of a tribe, the yachties, people who live on the wind, people who don't have addresses, only anchorages. She loved the freedom, the feeling of waking up in a new lagoon every week, the smell of frangipani and diesel fuel. She was fierce. She was independent. She didn't need a man to rescue her. She could tie a bowline knot in the dark. She could read the clouds, but even nomads get lonely. And even the strongest sailors are looking for a first mate. September 1983. Tami arrived in Papeete, Tahiti. It was the center of the cruising world. The harbor was a forest of masts. Flags from every nation fluttered in the trade winds. It was chaotic, humid, and intoxicating. Tami walked the docks. She was looking for work. She was looking for her next ride. She felt a strange energy here. Tahiti is beautiful, but it is also raw. The mountains are jagged green teeth. The ocean is deep blue and indifferent. It is a place where legends are made and where ships disappear. Tami found a job on a boat, just day work, scrubbing decks. She was happy. She would finish work, grab a Hinano beer, and watch the sunset over Moorea. She felt like she could stay here forever. Then she saw him. His name was Richard Sharp. He was 34, British. He had blue eyes that looked like the deep ocean. He wasn't just a sailor, he was a craftsman. He had built his own boat, the Mayaluga, a 36-foot cutter. He had built it with his own hands in South Africa. Tami saw him on the dock. He was calm. He moved with the grace of a man who had spent half his life at sea. They started talking. It wasn't a whirlwind romance of fireworks. It was a slow burn, like a sunrise. He invited her for dinner on the Mayaluga. He cooked. He told stories about crossing the Atlantic, about storms in the Bay of Biscay. Tami listened. She realized that this wasn't just a fling. Richard was the real deal. He was gentle. He was kind. But he was tough. He respected her. He didn't treat her like a passenger. He treated her like a sailor. "You know the sea," he told her. "I can see it in your hands." They fell in love. It was the kind of love that feels inevitable. They moved in together on his boat. They sailed around the Society Islands, Bora Bora, Raiatea, Hua Hin. It was a montage of perfection. Snorkeling in crystal clear water, sleeping on the deck under the Southern Cross. Tami thought, this is it. This is the life I wanted. She had found her partner. She had found her ocean. She had no idea that the ocean was about to demand a sacrifice. October 1983. They spent their days in a rhythm of simple joy. They would wake up with the sun. Richard would check the rigging. Tami would make coffee. They would sail to a new bay. They explored the islands. They hiked to waterfalls. Tami remembers Richard's laugh. It was a quiet, deep laugh. He was planning a circumnavigation. He wanted to take the Mayaluga all the way back to England. "Come with me," he asked Tami. "We'll see the world. New Zealand, Australia, the Indian Ocean." Tami didn't hesitate. Yes. They made plans. They looked at charts. They were a team. They were young, strong, and invincible. They had the arrogance of youth. They thought the worst thing that could happen was running out of beer or tearing a sail. They forgot that the Pacific Ocean is the largest, most violent wilderness on Earth, and it was hurricane season, late October, a fateful meeting on the docks of Papeete. An older couple approached them. They were wealthy. They owned a yacht, the Hazana, a 44-foot Trintella, a luxury yacht. It was beautiful, sleek, fast. But the couple had a problem. They needed to get the boat back to San Diego, urgently. They couldn't sail it themselves. They needed a delivery crew. They looked at Richard. They knew his reputation, a master mariner, a safe pair of hands. "Will you take her?" they asked. "We will pay you, plus airfare back to Tahiti." It was a lot of money, enough money to fund Richard and Tami's cruising life for a year. Richard looked at Tami. "What do you think?" It was a detour. They were supposed to go west to New Zealand. This meant going northeast, back to America, back to the cold North Pacific. Tami hesitated. She looked at the Hazana. It was a much bigger boat than the Mayaluga, more complex. "It's 4,000 miles, Tami said. "It's a long trip, and it's getting late in the season." But the money was tempting. "We can do it in 30 days, Richard said. "We'll be in San Diego by Christmas. Think of the freedom it buys us." They discussed it for days. They looked at the weather charts. The trade winds looked good. The hurricane zone was mostly to the west. They convinced themselves. "One last job," Richard said. "Then we are free." They shook hands with the owners. They accepted the delivery. September 22, 1983. They moved their gear onto the Hazana. It felt like a hotel compared to the cramped Mayaluga. Hot showers, a big galley, a powerful engine. They stocked up on provisions, canned food, pasta, rice. Tami bought Richard a present, a sextant. Even though the boat had electronic navigation, Richard was a purist. He wanted to navigate by the stars. Tami felt a strange knot in her stomach as they untied the lines. Leaving Tahiti felt like leaving a womb. The harbor was calm. The palm trees were swaying. Richard was at the wheel. He looked handsome in his cap. "Ready, love?" he called out. "Ready," Tami said. She cast off the bow line. The Hazana drifted away from the dock. They motored out through the reef pass. The water changed from turquoise to deep indigo. The ocean swell lifted the boat. They raised the sails. The white canvas snapped full. They turned the bow northeast, toward America, toward the horizon, toward the storm. As the island of Tahiti faded into the mist behind them, Tami took a photo of Richard. He was smiling. The wind was in his hair. It was the last photo she would ever take of him. The first few weeks were perfect. This is the honeymoon phase of a long passage. You fall into the rhythm of the watch system. 4 hours on, 4 hours off. You sleep in shifts. You eat simply. You read books. Tami read The Thornbirds. They saw dolphins riding the bow wave. They saw sunsets that looked like the world was on fire. They felt closer than ever. In the middle of the ocean, there are no distractions, no phones, no bills, just you and the person you love. Richard taught Tami celestial navigation. He showed her how to bring the sun down to the horizon with the sextant. "Trust the math," he told her. "The stars don't lie." Tami felt capable. She felt strong. She was running a 44-foot yacht through the biggest ocean on the planet. She looked at Richard one night while he was sleeping. She traced the line of his jaw. She thought about their wedding. She thought about their children. She had her whole life mapped out. And then, the barometer started to drop. Early October 1983, 2 weeks into the voyage, the perfect sailing weather vanishes. It starts with the sky. The deep, friendly blue turns a bruised purple. Then, the humidity spikes. The air feels heavy, sticky. Richard goes down to the navigation station. He taps the barometer. The glass, it has dropped, significantly. A falling barometer is the ocean's air raid siren. "It's dropping fast, Tami," Richard says. He isn't panicked. He is professional. But Tami sees the tension in his shoulders. They turn on the radio. They listen to the weather forecast from Hawaii. Static, then a voice. "Tropical depression, developing. 10 degrees north. It is far away. It's just a depression, Tami thinks. It might dissipate, but storms are like living things. They eat heat, they grow, and this one is hungry. October 10th, 1983. The radio report changes. Tropical Storm Raymond, then, 12 hours later, Hurricane Raymond. It is intensifying rapidly, and worse, it is changing course. Hurricanes usually move west. This one is hooking. It is turning north. It is heading straight for the Hazana. Richard gets out the charts. He plots the storm's position. He plots their position. He draws a line. The lines intersect. "We have to run," Richard says. They change course. They try to sail north, hoping to get out of the dangerous quadrant, the front right section of the storm where the winds are strongest. They push the Hazana hard. The engine is running. The sails are reefed, shortened. They are racing a monster, but the monster is faster. Hurricane Raymond swells into a Category 4 storm, winds of 140 knots, 160 miles per hour. This isn't a storm, it is a blender the size of Texas. October 11th. The ocean changes. The swells are no longer rhythmic waves. They are mountains, 20 feet, 30 feet. The Hazana climbs up a wall of gray water, hangs at the top, and then sleds down the other side. Tami is steering. She is strapped in. It takes all her strength to hold the wheel. The wind is shrieking. It rips the tops off the waves, creating a horizontal spray that feels like buckshot against the skin. They are shouting to be heard, even though they are standing next to each other. "We can't outrun it," Richard yells. The storm has caught them. They have to stop running and start surviving. They decide to heave to. This is a survival tactic. You set the small sails against each other to park the boat. They lock the wheel, they go below. The boat is now a cork in a washing machine. Inside the cabin, the noise is deafening. The hull groans. Dishes rattle in the cupboards. They hold each other. "It will pass," Richard says. "We just have to ride it out." But he checks the barometer again. It is off the scale. He looks at Tami. "I've never seen it this low," he whispers. October 12th, 1983. 1 p.m. The violence is absolute. They are in the eye wall. The waves are 40 feet high. Rogue monsters are hiding in the chaos. Richard decides to go on deck to check the rigging. He puts on his safety harness. He clips the tether to the cockpit. "You go below, Tami," he yells over the wind. "Rest. I'll take the watch." Tami hesitates. She wants to stay with him, but she is exhausted. They haven't slept in 48 hours. "Go on," Richard urges her. "I'll call you if I need you." She looks at him. He is drenched. His hair is plastered to his face. He looks like a warrior fighting a dragon. "Okay," she says. She climbs down the companionway stairs. She looks back up at him. He is standing at the wheel, bracing himself against the roll. He gives her a quick nod. She closes the hatch. She lies down on her bunk. She wraps a towel around her head to dampen the noise. She closes her eyes. She doesn't know it, but Richard just saved her life. It happens at 1:18 p.m. Tami hears a sound different from the wind. A roar, like a freight train. It is a rogue wave, a massive breaking wave, perhaps 50 feet high, towering over the boat. It doesn't just hit the Hazana, it falls on her. Tami feels the boat lift. Then, it keeps lifting. The boat goes vertical. The Hazana pitch poles. It flips end over end, bow over stern. Inside the cabin, gravity reverses. Tami is thrown from her bunk. She hits the ceiling, then the wall. Crack. Her head hits something hard. The cabin fills with flying objects, cans of food, books, the sextant. The lights go out. Then the water rushes in. Tami screams, but the sound is swallowed by the ocean. Then darkness. She is knocked unconscious. Time passes. Hours. The hurricane rages over the boat, but Tami is oblivious. She lies in a slurry of water, engine oil, and broken glass. The boat has righted itself, thanks to the heavy lead keel, but it is a wreck. The storm passes. The wind dies down. The waves settle. Silence returns to the Pacific, but it is the silence of a graveyard. Tami wakes up. It is 27 hours later. She opens her eyes. She is in pain. Blinding, searing pain. There is a gash on her head. She is covered in dried blood. She tries to move. Her body screams. She looks around. The cabin is destroyed. There is 3 feet of water on the floor. Debris is floating everywhere. Mattresses, clothes. Richard? Her voice is a croak. Richard. She expects him to answer. She expects him to come down the stairs. Silence. She feels a surge of panic. She forces herself to stand up. She wades through the water to the companionway stairs. They are broken. She climbs up the debris. She pushes the hatch open. The sunlight hits her eyes. It hurts. She looks out at the cockpit. The first thing she sees is the sky. It is blue, cruel blue. The second thing she sees is the mast. It is gone, snapped off clean at the deck. The sails are dragging in the water, a tangled mess of wire and canvas. She looks at the wheel. The steering pedestal is bent. She looks for Richard. Richard! He isn't there. She looks at the safety line. The heavy D-ring is still clipped to the boat. The line trails out of the cockpit, over the side. Her heart stops. Maybe he fell over. Maybe he is dangling off the side. She scrambles to the rail. She pulls the line. It comes up easily. It is light. She pulls it all the way in. At the end of the line is the safety harness. The metal clasp has shattered. The force of the wave was so great that it ripped Richard right out of his harness, or the D-ring failed. She holds the empty harness in her hands. She stares at the empty ocean. There is nothing but rolling blue swells for 1,000 miles. He is gone. Richard Sharp, the love of her life, the strong captain, is gone. Tami falls to her knees on the shattered deck. She screams. It is a primal scream, a scream of total, absolute despair. No, no, no! She waits for him to surface. He's a strong swimmer, she thinks. He'll pop up. She watches the water for an hour, 2 hours. Nobody pops up. She is alone. She is 23 years old. She is bleeding. Her boat is a wreck. And she is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Grief turns to shock. Shock turns to madness. Tami goes back below deck. She finds the first aid kit. She bandages her head. She finds a jar of peanut butter. She eats a spoonful. It tastes like ash. She sees Richard's clothes hanging on a hook. She smells his shirt. The pain is unbearable. She spots a razor blade in the bathroom kit. She picks it up. She looks at her wrist. I can't do this, she whispers. I can't survive this. It's too hard. If I end it now, I can be with him. She holds the blade against her skin. She cries until she has no tears left. She sits there for a long time, balancing on the edge of suicide. Then she hears something, a voice, not an auditory hallucination, an internal voice. It is loud. It is commanding. Tami, put it down. Get up. She looks around. Get up and fix the boat. She doesn't know where the voice comes from. Is it God? Is it Richard's spirit? Is it her own survival instinct? She puts the razor down. She wipes her face. She looks at the water rising in the cabin. Okay, she says to the empty room. Okay. October 14th, 1983. Tami stands in the wreckage of the Hazana. The voice told her to get up, so she gets up. The grief is still there, a black hole in her chest, but she pushes it into a box. She opens the survival box in her brain. Step 1, float. The boat is heavy. It is sluggish. She checks the bilge. 3 feet of water, thousands of gallons. If she takes another wave, she sinks. She finds the manual bilge pump handle. She starts to pump. Clack whoosh, clack whoosh. It is backbreaking work. Her ribs are bruised. Her head is throbbing. She pumps for hours. She pumps until her hands bleed. She pumps until she is screaming with effort. But slowly, the water level drops. The floorboards appear. She sees the debris clearly now. Shattered glass, sopping wet charts, cans of food without labels. She clears the drain holes. She gets the water out. The boat rises a few inches in the water. It feels alive again. She pats the bulkhead. "Good girl," she whispers to the boat. "Stay with me." Now, the assessment. What does she have? Engine, dead. The starter is soaked. Radio, dead. The antenna was on the mast, which is now at the bottom of the ocean. Electronic navigation, dead. Sails, gone. The mast took the mainsail and the Genoa with it. Food, plentiful but chaotic. Cans are rolling everywhere. Water. The tanks are intact. She has water. This is the only good news. Hull, sound, no major leaks. She realizes her situation. She is a ghost ship. She cannot call for help. She cannot motor. She cannot steer. The wheel is bent, but usable if she lashes it. She is a speck in the largest empty space on the planet. She sits down at the navigation table. She finds the charts. They are damp, but readable. She needs to know where she is. She looks for Richard's sextant, the one she gave him. It's gone, lost in the rollover. Panic flares. Without a sextant, she is blind. She can't navigate 1,500 miles on a guess. Then she remembers. The spare. Richard had an old plastic sextant, a backup. She digs through a locker. She finds it. It is cheap. It is scratched. But it works. She hugs the plastic instrument to her chest. It is her lifeline. She goes on deck. It is noon. She shoots the sun. She brings the sun down to the horizon in the mirror. She checks the time on her digital watch, which miraculously survived. She does the math. Trigonometry. She plots the dot on the chart. She stares at the dot. She is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. She draws a line to San Diego, her original destination. It is to the northeast. But the wind is blowing from the northeast. A sailboat without a proper keel and mast cannot sail into the wind. She cannot go back. She draws a line to the nearest land, Hilo, Hawaii. It is 1,500 miles away. To the west. Downwind. She does the speed calculation. With a jury-rigged sail, she might make 2 knots. Walking speed. 1,500 miles divided by 2 knots equals 41 days. She has to survive for a month and a half alone on a broken boat. And she has to hit a target, the Hawaiian Islands, that is a tiny speck in the blue. If she misses Hawaii to the north or south, the next stop is Japan or Antarctica. She misses, she dies. Hawaii, she says. We go to Hawaii. She needs a sail. She crawls out to the deck. The mast stump is about 6 feet high. She finds a spare sail, a small storm jib, stuffed in a locker. She finds the spinnaker pole, a long metal pole used for the balloon sail. She lashes the pole to the mast stump. She hoists the storm jib. It looks pathetic, a tiny triangle of white cloth on a big, broken yacht. But the wind catches it. Snap. The boat lurches, forward. It isn't fast. It is barely moving, but it is moving. She lashes the wheel so the boat steers itself downwind. She creates a self-steering system using bungee cords and surgical tubing. She watches the wake, a tiny ripple of white water. She is making way. She feels a surge of pride. She isn't just a passenger. She is the captain now. The loneliness is the real enemy. During the day, she works. But at night, the silence is deafening. And then, he comes back. The voice. She is sitting in the cockpit. looking at the stars. "You missed a spot," the voice says. She looks over. She can almost see him. Richard. He is sitting in his usual spot near the winch. He looks fine. He isn't wet. He isn't dead. "You missed a spot on the chart," he says. "Check the current drift." Tami knows logically that he is dead. She held the empty tether, but her brain refuses to accept the isolation. So she hallucinates him. She talks to him. "I checked the current, Richard. It's pushing us south." "Good girl," the voice says. "Adjust 2 degrees north." This hallucination becomes her crewmate. He keeps her calm. When she cries, he comforts her. "Don't cry, Tami. Save the water." Is it madness? Perhaps. But psychologists call it a third man factor. In extreme survival situations, the mind creates a companion to prevent total collapse. Tami welcomes the ghost. She cooks dinner for 2. She sleeps on her side of the bunk, leaving space for him. Survival becomes a routine. Food is a problem. Not the quantity, but the identity. The labels washed off the cans in the bilge water. Every meal is a lottery. She opens a can. It could be peaches. It could be green beans. It could be chili. One day, she opens a can. Sardines. She hates sardines, but she eats them. Every scrap of protein is energy to pump the bilge. She craves sugar. Shock consumes glucose. She finds a bag of brown sugar. She eats it by the spoonful. She mixes peanut butter and ketchup just to taste something different. Her body is changing. She is losing weight rapidly. Her muscles are atrophying. Her head wound is healing, but it throbs constantly. She looks at her reflection in a piece of broken mirror. She sees a wild woman, hair matted with salt, skin burnt by the sun. She looks like a castaway. Days turn into weeks. Day 10, day 20, day 30. The monotony is torture. The sun rises. It beats down on the fiberglass. It sets. The stars come out. She navigates. Every day at noon, she shoots the sun. She marks an X on the chart. The line of X's is slowly, agonizingly crawling toward the left side of the paper, toward Hawaii. But there are bad days. Days when the wind dies. The boat bobs in the swell, sails slatting. Those are the days the depression hits. "I'm not moving," she screams at the ocean. "Let me go," she yells at Richard. "Why did you leave me? You promised we'd be together." The voice doesn't answer on those days. She contemplates the razor blade again. But then the wind returns. The boat moves, and she gets back to work. She realizes she is racing a clock. She is running out of food. But more importantly, she is running out of mind. She starts to forget who she was before the wave. Was she a girl who loved dancing? Was she a girl who loved horses? She can't remember. She is just an organism trying to stay afloat on a hostile planet. Day 38. She sees a shape, a ship, a massive cargo freighter on the horizon. Her heart leaps. She grabs a flare gun. She fires a red flare. It arcs into the sky. She waves a frantic orange cloth. "Over here! Here!" She waits for the ship to turn. She waits for the whistle. But the ship keeps going. It is miles away. The bridge crew is looking at radar, not at the ocean. A tiny white sailboat with a stump mast is invisible. She watches the ship disappear over the curve of the earth. It crushes her. She falls onto the deck. She sobs until she dry heaves. They didn't see me. Nobody sees me. She realizes that nobody is coming to save her. "It's up to you, Tami," the voice says. "If you want to live, you have to sail this boat into the harbor yourself." She wipes her eyes. She picks up the sextant. She shoots the sun. "Okay," she says. "Hawaii, or bust." November 22nd, 1983, day 41. Tami wakes up. Something is different. It isn't a sound. It isn't a sight. It is a smell. For 41 days, her world has smelled of 3 things: salt, rotting seaweed, and fear. But this morning, The air is sweet. It smells of wet dirt. It smells of flowers, frangipani, hibiscus. It smells of life. She crawls onto the deck. The sun is rising behind her. She looks ahead, to the west. She sees birds, not the lonely albatross of the deep ocean, but smaller birds, land birds, boobies and frigate birds. They are diving into the water. Birds mean fish. Fish mean shallow water. Shallow water means land. Her heart starts to hammer against her ribs. She grabs the binoculars. Her hands are shaking so much she can barely focus. She scans the horizon. Gray clouds, blue water, gray clouds. Wait. One of the clouds is darker than the others. It has a hard edge. Clouds change shape. This shape isn't changing. It is a triangle. A massive sloping triangle rising out of the sea. Mauna Kea, the volcano on the big island of Hawaii. She drops the binoculars. She screams, "Land, Richard, land!" She turns to the empty cockpit. "We did it! We found it!" The voice answers her, calm as ever. "Steady, Tami. You aren't there yet." Seeing the land is one thing. Getting to it is another. She is approaching the windward side of the big island. The trade winds are blowing hard here. The swell is big. She has to navigate into Hilo Harbor. Hilo is notorious. It has a long breakwater, but the entrance is guarded by reefs. If she misses the entrance, the waves will smash the Hazana against the lava rocks. She has no engine. She has a scrap of sail tied to a pole. She has to sail a broken boat through a narrow gap in the reef, surfing down huge waves. It is a nautical threading of the needle. She gets out the charts. She studies the approach. "Keep the buoy to starboard," she mutters. "Don't get too close to the breakwater." The hours pass agonizingly slowly. The island grows. The green becomes vivid. She sees cars driving on a coastal road. Imagine that. After 41 days of empty blue, she sees a tiny speck of a car moving on a highway. It looks like science fiction. She feels like an alien arriving from another planet. She is 2 miles offshore. She sees a ship coming out of the harbor. It is a large vessel, the Hokulea, a Japanese research ship. She grabs her flare gun. She has 2 flares left. She fires one. Whoosh! Red smoke trails against the green mountain. The ship sees her. They turn. They slow down. They approach the battered mastless yacht. The crew lines the rail. They are staring. They see a woman who looks like a skeleton, waving a red cloth. A voice booms over a loudspeaker. "Do you need assistance?" Tami laughs, a hysterical sobbing laugh. "Yes," she screams. "I have no engine." The ship maneuvers closer. They throw a heaving line. It lands on the deck with a heavy thud. Tami grabs it. She ties it to the bow cleat. The rope goes taut. The ship begins to tow her. For the first time in 41 days, she stops steering. She lets go of the wheel. She collapses on the cockpit seat. The responsibility is gone. She is being pulled home. They tow her past the breakwater. The water instantly goes calm. The violent rolling stops. The Hazana glides into the harbor. It is a working port. There are cranes, warehouses, smells of diesel and fish processing. To Tami, it smells like perfume. A harbor pilot boat comes out to assist with the docking. They nudge the broken yacht alongside a concrete pier. Men jump down to catch the lines. They tie the boat up. Tami stands on the deck. She looks at the concrete. It is solid. It doesn't move. She tries to step off the boat. Her legs fail her. She falls. The men rush to help her. "I've got you, miss," a large Hawaiian man says. He lifts her onto the dock. She kisses the concrete. She literally kisses the dirty, oil-stained ground. People are gathering. Ambulance sirens are wailing in the distance. They look at the boat. They see the snapped mast, the devastation. They look at her. "Where did you come from?" someone asks. "Tahiti," she whispers. They look at each other in disbelief. You came from Tahiti? In that? The paramedics arrive. They want to put her on a stretcher. No, Tami says. I want to walk. But she can't walk straight. She has land sickness. Her inner ear is calibrated to the ocean. The stable ground feels like it is pitching and rolling. She stumbles. They help her into the ambulance. Are you hungry? A medic asks. Yes, she says. What do you want? A cheeseburger, she says instantly, with everything on it. It is the universal desire of the survivor. Grease, fat, salt. They drive her to the hospital. Someone runs to a fast food joint. They bring her the burger. She eats it in the emergency room while they are checking her vitals. She eats it like a wolf. She feels the calories hitting her bloodstream. She is safe. The shark didn't get her. The storm didn't get her. She is alive. But then the crash comes. She is in a hospital bed. Clean sheets. The nurses have washed the salt from her hair. She is alone in the room. She turns her head to the chair in the corner. She expects to see him. Throughout the voyage, whenever she rested, Richard was there. The voice. We made it, Richard, she says. Look, we are in Hawaii. Silence. The chair is empty. There is no shimmer, no voice. Richard? Nothing? Panic rises. Don't leave me now. But he is gone. The hallucination was a survival mechanism. Her brain created him to keep her alive. Now that she is safe, her brain has let him go. The realization hits her with the force of the rogue wave. He didn't make it. He died 41 days ago. She has been talking to a ghost. She has been alone the entire time. The grief, which she had pushed into a box to survive, explodes. She curls into a ball on the hospital bed. She wails. It is a sound of pure agony. The nurses come running. They think she is in physical pain. They try to sedate her. He's gone, she sobs. He's really gone. This is the true tragedy of survival. As long as she was fighting the sea, he was with her. By winning the battle, she lost him forever. The next morning, she walks to the bathroom. She looks in the mirror. She sees the toll. She has lost 40 pounds. She weighs barely 100 pounds. Her ribs are visible through her skin. There is a jagged scar on her forehead where the wave smashed her. Her eyes are different. They are 1,000-yard stare eyes. She touches the reflection. Who are you? She whispers. She is not the girl who left Tahiti. That girl died in the storm. She is Tami Oldham Ashcraft, the survivor. But she doesn't feel like a hero. She feels like a fragment. She feels like half a person. She goes back to the bed. She picks up the phone. She has to make the hardest call of her life. She has to call Richard's parents in England. She has to tell them that she is alive and that their son is drifting somewhere in the deep blue, never to be found. The hospital room in Hilo, Hawaii. Tami sits with the phone in her lap. It is a heavy, rotary phone. She has the number for Richard's parents in England. She dials. The clicks of the international connection sound like gunshots. It rings. A woman answers, Richard's mother. Hello? Tami opens her mouth, but no sound comes out. How do you say it? How do you tell a mother that you're alive, eating a cheeseburger in Hawaii, while her son is gone? Mrs. Sharp? Tami chokes out. Tami? Is that you? The hope in the mother's voice is devastating. They know the boat is overdue. They have been praying. I'm in Hawaii, Tami says. Oh, thank God. Is Richard there? Let me speak to him. Tami closes her eyes. Tears run down her face, dripping onto the hospital gown. He's not here, Tami whispers. He didn't make it. Silence. A silence so profound it stretches across the Atlantic Ocean. Then, a sound. A mother's wail. It is the same sound Tami made on the boat. Tami tries to explain. The wave, the harness, the safety line. but the words feel hollow. "I tried," Tami sobs. "I tried to find him." She hangs up. She feels like a murderer. Survivor's guilt isn't just a feeling, it is a verdict. She feels she has stolen a life that wasn't hers. A few days later, Tami is discharged. She goes down to the harbor to see the Hazana. In the daylight, the boat looks horrific. The hull is scarred. The mast stump is jagged. The interior is a moldy, chaotic mess. But now, it isn't her home anymore. It is a crime scene. The Coast Guard is there. The insurance adjusters are there. They are men with clipboards. They ask questions. Cold, logical questions. "Why were you on that course? Did you check the weather? Can you prove the safety harness failed?" They look at the empty D-ring. Tami feels like she is on trial. They aren't accusing her of murder, but they are analyzing her competence. "Did you make a mistake? Did you kill him with bad seamanship?" Tami stands on the dock, trembling. She wants to scream at them. "We were in a hurricane! A hurricane!" But she just nods numbly. She signs the papers. The boat is declared a constructive total loss. Richard is declared lost at sea. Legal terms: clean, sterile. They erase the 41 days of hell and replace it with a file number. There is another injury, one that the doctors initially missed: the head wound. When the boat pitch-poled, Tami hit her head violently. She was unconscious for 27 hours. Now that the adrenaline of survival has faded, the symptoms appear. She tries to read a newspaper. The words swim. They jump off the page. She can't focus. She tries to do simple math. She can't. The woman who navigated 1,500 miles using a sextant and trigonometry now can't calculate a tip at a restaurant. It is terrifying. She wonders if she has lost her mind. Am I brain damaged? For years she will struggle with this. She loses her ability to read for pleasure. The things she loved most, books, are now locked away from her. It is a cruel irony. She survived by using her brain, but the price was the brain itself. She feels broken, physically, mentally, and emotionally. She flies back to California, San Diego. Her friends meet her. Her family hugs her. They throw a welcome home party. People are drinking beer. They are laughing. They are talking about sports, about traffic, about movies. Tami sits in the corner. She feels like an alien. She looks at a glass of water on the table. She thinks, that glass of water is more valuable than gold. She looks at the food people are leaving on their plates. She wants to scream, "Don't you know? Don't you know how fast it can all go away?" She has the stare. People try to be nice. "You're so brave," they say. "You're a hero." She hates that word. "I'm not a hero," she thinks. "I'm a victim who didn't die." She feels separated from humanity by a wall of glass. They live in the world of the safe. She lives in the world of the storm. She can't relate to their problems. "Oh, your car broke down? That's sad. I watched my fiancé drown." She becomes isolated. She retreats. And then there is the ocean. Tami Oldham was a sailor. The sea was her church, her playground. Now it is her enemy. She drives along the Pacific Coast Highway. She looks out at the water. She doesn't see beauty. She sees a graveyard. She sees the teeth of the waves. She has nightmares. Vivid, recurring nightmares. She is back on the boat. The wave is coming. The roar. The darkness. She wakes up screaming, soaked in sweat. She is terrified of the wind. If a breeze picks up, she flinches. She develops a phobia. She vows never to set foot on a boat again. "I am done," she says. "I am a land creature now." She moves inland. She tries to put mountains between her and the sea. She tries to be normal. She gets a job. She tries to date. But Richard is always there. Every man she meets is compared to him. He isn't Richard, she thinks. He wouldn't know what to do in a storm. She is still in love with a ghost. One day, she is unpacking her few belongings from the Hazana. She finds the plastic sextant, the cheap backup instrument that saved her life. She holds it. It feels heavy. It represents the hardest thing she ever did. It represents the moment she chose life over death. She realizes that she can't throw it away. She puts it on a shelf. It sits there, gathering dust. It is a reminder. I am capable, it whispers. I am strong. Slowly, very slowly, the healing begins. But it doesn't start with therapy. It starts with the realization that hiding from the ocean is letting the ocean win. She realizes that Richard wouldn't want her to be afraid. Richard loved the sea. If she hates the sea, she is hating the thing he loved. She starts to go down to the beach just to look, just to dip her toe in. The water is cold. It reminds her of the bilge, but it also reminds her of the dolphins and the sunsets. She stands on the edge of the continent, having a silent conversation with the Pacific. You took him, she says, but you didn't take me. She finds something else in her bag, a ring. Richard had given her a ring made of scrimshaw, carved bone, in Tahiti. It wasn't a diamond, it was a sailor's ring. She puts it on. It fits perfectly. It is her wedding ring. She decides that she is a widow. Even though they weren't married by a priest, they were married by the sea. She wears the ring as a badge of honor. She talks to him, not the hallucination, just the memory. I'm going to be okay, Richard, she whispers. It's going to take time, but I'm going to be okay. She decides to write. Since she can't read well yet, she writes. She writes down the story. It is messy. It is painful. But getting it out of her head and onto paper helps. It is the beginning of the book Red Sky in Morning. It is the beginning of the movie Adrift. But that is years away. For now, it is just a woman sitting at a desk, crying, trying to make sense of why she is still here. 2 years pass. Tami tries to live a land life. She works normal jobs. She lives in an apartment with solid walls. She is safe. But she isn't happy. She realizes something profound. The ocean took Richard away. But before that, the ocean gave him to her. The ocean was where she fell in love. It was where she felt most alive. By staying on land, she isn't punishing the ocean. She is punishing herself. She feels the call. It is a physical ache. She misses the horizon. She misses the simplicity of the wind. She realizes that fear is a cage, and Tami Oldham was never meant to be in a cage. She makes a decision. She is going to go back, not just to the beach, to the water. She calls a friend who owns a sailboat. Take me out, she says, just for an hour, just in the bay. She steps onto the boat. The deck moves under her feet. Instantly, the panic flares. Her heart races. Her palms sweat. She looks at the mast. She remembers the snap. She remembers the scream of the rigging. She grips the rail until her knuckles are white. I can't do this, she thinks. I have to get off. But she forces herself to stay. Breathe, she whispers. Just breathe. They motor out. They raise the sails. The canvas snaps full. The boat heels over. That sensation, the tipping of the world, is the trigger. Tami closes her eyes. She waits for the pitch pole. She waits for the water to rush in. But the boat holds. It cuts through the water. She opens her eyes. She feels the wind on her face. It isn't an angry wind. It is a gentle breeze. She takes the wheel. Her hands remember. The muscle memory of a sailor kicks in. She feels the pressure on the rudder. She reads the telltales on the sail. A smile breaks across her face. It is a fragile smile, but it is real. I am home, she thinks. She realizes that the sea is not her enemy. The sea is just the sea. It is indifferent. It can kill you, but it can also heal you. Richard is there, not as a ghost, but as a warmth in the sunlight. He would want this, she realizes. He wouldn't want me to be afraid. Tami doesn't just go back to sailing, she doubles down. She decides to get her captain's license, the highest qualification. She studies. She forces her injured brain to relearn the math. She masters navigation. She masters weather patterns. She becomes an expert on storms. Why? Because knowledge is power. She can't stop a hurricane, but she can understand it. She eventually gets her license. She becomes a professional captain. She skippers yachts all over the world. She sails past the very spot where the Hazana rolled. She drops a wreath of flowers into the water. "Goodbye, my love," she says. But this time she doesn't cry. She adjusts the sails. She checks the compass. She keeps moving. It takes 10 years to process the trauma enough to write it down. For a long time, she couldn't talk about it without breaking down. But the story was burning a hole in her. She sits down at a typewriter. She forces herself to relive the 41 days. She forces herself to remember the smell of the sardines, the taste of the peanut butter, the sound of the silence. She writes Red Sky in mourning. The title refers to the old sailor's adage, red sky at night, sailors delight, red sky in morning, sailors take warning. The book is raw. It is honest. She doesn't paint herself as a superhero. She writes about the depression, the suicide attempt, the hallucinations. When the book is published, she receives letters from people all over the world, people who have lost spouses, people who are grieving. They tell her, "You gave me hope. If you can survive 41 days alone, I can survive my divorce. I can survive my illness." She realizes that her suffering had a purpose. It became a lighthouse for others. Tami didn't stay a widow forever. She knew Richard would want her to find love. She met a man, Ed Ashcraft, a blue-eyed man, a good man. They got married. She had children, 2 daughters. She named her first daughter Kelly, and she gave her the middle name Ricky, after Richard. She told Ed about Richard. She told her daughters. She didn't hide the past. Richard became a part of their family legend, the guardian angel. Tami taught her daughters to sail. She showed them the ocean. Respect it, she told them. Fear it a little, but love it. She built a life that was full of joy. But she always kept the ring. The scrimshaw ring Richard gave her. She wears it on a chain around her neck sometimes. It is a talisman. In 2018, Hollywood came calling. They wanted to make a movie, Adrift. Shailene Woodley played Tami. Sam Claflin played Richard. Tami was on set. It was a surreal experience. She watched the actors recreate the happiest moments of her life and the worst. She watched the pitch pole scene. It was terrifyingly accurate, but the most emotional moment was watching Shailene Woodley portray the hallucination, seeing Richard come back to life on screen. At the premiere, Tami walked the red carpet. She wore a beautiful dress. She looked at the screen. She saw her own story. She realized that the story didn't belong to her anymore. It belonged to the world. It was a story about the endurance of the human spirit. It was a story about how love can keep you alive, even after the person you love is dead. We often think of survival as a physical act, holding your breath, treading water, rationing food. But Tami Oldham Ashcraft taught us that survival is almost entirely mental. It is the decision, made every single morning, to open your eyes. It is the decision to eat the sardine. It is the decision to listen to the voice that says, "Get up." Tami navigated 1,500 miles without a GPS. She used a plastic sextant to find a speck of land in a blue universe. But her greatest navigation wasn't finding Hawaii. It was finding herself again. She was lost in a storm of grief that was far more violent than Hurricane Raymond, and she sailed out of it. She didn't come out unscathed. She carries the scars. She carries the memory, but she is the captain of her own soul.